Testing. 1, 2, 3.
What?
We're out here with episode number 13 of the Coffee with Friends podcast, guys.
Best number ever.
Yes, and you guys know why. It's not because of Taylor Swift.
Why?
Well, because we talked about that last podcast. That 13 is not because of Taylor Swift. Okay? This is because this is Xiomi's favorite number.
Yeah.
But we are out here with episode number 13. Mm-hmm. We want to thank every single one of you guys for listening, for watching, for streaming, for sharing, for all that good stuff. We appreciate the love. Thank you that after 13 episodes, which I believe is what I think you said 3 months, right?
3. Yeah.
Wow, 3 months. It's been 3 months that you guys have been listening and tuning in, and we just want to...
1 week.
In 1 week, yeah. Today? Yep.
1 week.
That's true, yeah.
It was 3 months last week.
Yeah, it was.
We forgot.
Yeah, we forgot. But we're here now, and we are so very thankful for every single one of you guys and all the support and all the love. We really do appreciate that, and we hope you are gaining a value and are being blessed by these conversations.
Yeah.
Today, we will be jumping straight into it.
Mm-hmm.
Straight into it.
Yeah.
And I believe that I would say this, that, I think you guys, after listening to us 13 times for about an hour each, hopefully know our heart. Hopefully the majority of you guys know us, personally. And I think you guys, or at least I would hope, know our intentions and who we are, right? And what we believe in. And the reason I'm prefacing all that and saying that is because we're going to go into a topic today that I personally love, Xiomi loves. I mean, it's a great topic. It's one that we need to talk about. But I will say it is a tough one. It's a touchy one.
It's a touchy one. But
it is one that, but here's the thing. It's a conversation that's being had.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. And being had, unfortunately, by people who don't have anything really good to say or don't have experience or really the authority to say something. Not that we say we do, but I think, again, experience.
Or they're just empty words.
Yeah, I think experience, relationships with people and relational equity, all these things play a big part. And again, so this conversation we're going to be talking about today is the church embracing modernity, controversy, and deconstruction. Again, you're hearing about this everywhere because it is a popular and pretty hot topic.
Yeah, it's very it's out there right now.
It is. And again, it is a touchy one. Obviously, trigger warning for those of you who, of course, struggle with this or have had some negative, encounters, interactions, history with this, experiences. But the reason we want to talk about this is one, many of you, why is Siri recording me? I guess the government wants, in my opinion. Jerry, our FBI agent. It's because we want, again, a lot of you guys have asked us for our opinion. This is actually one of the most common requested kind of topics we get.
Yeah.
In person and when we ask. But, I really want us to share our thoughts because I think hopefully our thoughts will be encouraging to those of you who are wanting to find some clarity and language for this conversation when you're having it with your friends and family. And for those of you who are probably struggling with this, are probably considering, deconstruction or are affected by all the controversy that's happening in the church. And then asking, the church embracing modernity, is that good? Do we return to what was? All these, those of you who are thinking about this, so as always, we are not experts. We're not going to ever speak from a place of it's our way, the highway. This is gospel. Absolutely not.
Yeah, for sure.
And something that I always love to say, and I'll say it here, this is not our solution. This is our response. to these topics. Right.
That's good.
I think you'll find solutions in there.
Yeah.
I think you can find wisdom in there, but these are just our opinions and our thoughts in response to these questions.
Yeah.
So follow along, join the conversation. Yeah. And again, I really hope this blesses you guys, and I really hope you guys receive something out of this, because it is a hard one. It was a hard one. But let's just get right into it. So the first, it's kind of like a 3-topic episode here, but they're all kind of, in my opinion, connect. Yeah. The first one is, the church embracing modernity. This is one that, I think all of them, we have some pretty, I would say, like, deep and strong opinions. But this one, specifically for me, working in ministry for, haven't worked full time, and maybe it's been almost 3 years ish working full time, but I've been and worked in ministry, whether staff, intern, volunteer, but really I was on staff low key, and was working that many hours, X, Y, Z, whatever. But I've been in ministry for a while. I'm not old. I'm 25, but I've been around the block. Sure. So is Xiomi. We've been to many churches, served in many churches. Yeah. So, this one is important to us, especially because we want to plant a church one day. We want to be in ministry for the long haul. So this is something we both carry deeply. Yeah. And, the conversation, I think that this question holds, it's there's 2 camps. It's like, you have people who are saying the church needs to embrace modernity, and that can mean a whole lot of things. Yeah. That can mean, being more progressive. That could mean being more relevant. That could mean being more innovative. Yeah. So many different things, but we'll land on a broad kind of statement on that. Then there's the other side, which is, no, we stick to tradition.
Absolutely not, yeah.
We go the other way. Yeah. And that could mean, again, tradition. That can mean, in some cases, more religiosity. That could mean, which isn't necessarily bad.
A little more rigid.
Yeah, but what isn't actually necessarily bad, I think religion has a bad rap, but actually Jesus talks about that, and it's biblical. There is good religion, but obviously there's good and bad to everything, right? You can something that's good can be bad. Like water can kill you, and it's good for you. Air can kill you, and it's good for you, right? So there's always polar opposites.
That was crazy, because you went water, air, and immediately I'm thinking sandwiches.
That's true.
Like too many as
well. Yeah, I mean, anything and without moderation can kill you, right? So what I'm saying though is, with these 2 camps, for the most part, they're very polar opposite. Yeah. They're very, this is my side, that's my side, and there's not really a happy Goldilocks middle. Yeah. But I think that's when this conversation is brought up, it's usually people in both camps saying this or that. Right. Yeah. And I think we get caught in the middle, those of us who maybe don't subscribe to either one, but ask the questions like, well, which one is it? Right. Like, what's the right way? So again, everyone has their opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I think obviously when reading the word, unfortunately, we take the whole, it's your interpretation. And again, that can be very dangerous, because it's really not. And by the way, guys, we're going to go into some maybe churchy and like theological lingo here, so just if that's not your cup of tea, if you don't know, sorry, but just try to kind of, and if you have questions and stuff, look it up, definitions as I'm talking. But I think these things are very important to understand context. But it's like people have their own interpretations, but in the end of the day, that's actually not correct. Like it's, you have to exegese scripture, exegesis, right? You have to
explain that.
Yeah, so exegesis is the actual context, historically, theologically, philosophically, XYZ, of what that scripture is saying, that verse is saying within the context of that chapter. It's not eisegizing, which is the opposite of that, which is people grabbing a verse and then putting a concept and topic to that verse, right? Saying, oh, well, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, so I'm going to jump off a building and fly. No, that's not what that means. If you read after, there's different things there. For example, God gives you the desires of your heart. No, according to his will. Let's not eisegise that. Let's exegese that. So, hermeneutics, the study of the word, all these words that are fancy words,
Yeah.
but like these are important, and we need to understand that like it's this whole concept of it's our interpretation, and
Yeah.
it is what it is. Like, take that. No, sorry, that doesn't work. Like, we need to understand that the word is clear, and we
Yeah.
have to exegete scripture, look at context. So why I'm saying that is, I think, again, when this conversation is brought up, people are saying, well, there are moments in the Bible where Jesus was very, quote unquote, progressive and like was trying to, quote unquote, reinvent and modernize Christianity. Yes and no. I mean, he's Jesus. He is Christianity. So he was the definition. He was the Word. The Word is God. But again, you look at Jesus and he wasn't trying to reinvent the prior scriptures because, again, he was the Word. So he's not going to reinvent himself. He is bound by his word, right? So that's why we see multiple times him going back to the Old Testament, citing old verses and stuff like that. Because, again, he wasn't trying to make something new or contradict the scriptures. And that's the other thing, right? So the reason I'm saying all that is to say that I think, yes, in the Bible, there are multiple instances where we see the disciples and the early church of Acts being somewhat, innovative and creating and pushing the envelope and being, quote unquote, I guess, relevant, but not really, right? And then, Ren, move out the way, please. You're going to drop our drinks. By the way, we're drinking right here some delicious bonsai drinks.
Bonsai. Found them at Costco.
Quick little sponsor there. Not really. Anyway, but then there's verses in the Bible that are... Ren, please, you're going to have to move. There are verses in the Bible that are, point to actually tradition, and right? And again, keeping the word at the forefront and the tradition that was laid out specifically by the disciples, right? The apostles and Jesus. So I don't want to give the cop-out answer that it's both. But I think that at the end of the day, it really is. I think there's a happy medium of us needing to push the envelope and be relevant to our generation because generations change. And because the times are different, right? It's like people who probably are very non-modernity are going to be like, well, you shouldn't be posting stuff on Instagram and, and it's like, that's just wrong, bro. So, come on. Because I guarantee you Jesus would have done something along the lines of trying to tell his disciples to share something, right?
So
I don't know.
With that, actually, can I ask you what the difference would be between embracing modernity and adapting to like now? Is there is there a difference, and what does that look like, right? Because I think
I think we have to understand the definition, right? Because I think when you say embrace modernity, I personally believe that brings more of an assimilation, syncretism type of vibe. Embracing modernity, like that phrase kind of sounds like it's Christianity adapting to what is to the world rather than the world adapting to Christianity, which is what it should do. Right? So it's the age old, Jesus hung out with sinners, but he never became a sinner.
Right.
Instead, he brought them to him, to the light. It's the same way. I think it's more adaptation. Sure. Well, I don't know. What was the word that you used specifically?
Adapt, right?
I think that the church should adapt. I think we see that all over the world, when we adapt through persecution. Guys, the early church adapted to persecution.
Yeah.
You know that little fish you see on people's Honda Odysseys? Right? I mean, is it like not? It's pretty legit, right? That was a sign, right, of adaptation because they're being persecuted. And this is like, yo, this is how we're on the same team here. You a believer? I'm going to put a little fish in the sand. Cool. I can come in. Let's do it. And then they met. That's adaptation. I didn't know that. Right? So, and not to mention the goats of the church in China, right, in Japan and India and the Middle East and just all over the world that's like adapting to persecution, right? There's adaptation and it's needed, right? And again, like there's ways of, the sharing of the word, the Great Commission, I would argue, was Jesus saying, we're adapting this message to a worldwide audience. Right? So I believe adaptation is needed, sure. But I think the whole embracing modernity, I think I would, I feel like that in and of itself, I wouldn't agree with that phrase, because that kind of it insinuates like you're adapting to the world.
Yeah.
So then, unfortunately, what that is what we do see, which again goes into some of these other topics of churches and pastors and Christianity as a whole adapting to secular culture and watering down the gospel and preaching a fake gospel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't embrace modernity there. We shun it. As a matter of fact, Christianity was countercultural.
Yeah, that's true.
So in reality, you shouldn't embrace what is. You change it by being the opposite. Jesus was completely counter everything of his era.
Yeah.
He gave women's rights. He sat at the table of sinners and tax collectors. He preached to love your enemy in a time where everyone was an enemy and there was war all over the place and political chaos, XYZ. He preached, give to Caesar what is to Caesar.
Yeah.
Not a lot of us don't like that one. You know, there's so many things that he preached and said that were so, I mean, again, he said the kingdom is an upside down kingdom, right? So even the phrase embrace modernity, it's like low-key no, because we're counter modernity.
Yeah.
But I agree with that statement. I would say let's put adaptation there. Now on the other side, so I'm not saying the other side is bad. I think again, it's both of them are correct. I think we have to go back to a lot of those traditions.
Yeah.
I think we have to go back to the reverence of the word and understanding, you know, the reverence of communion and of the fellowship and all these things, right? Of the ecclesia, the governing body. That is what church is, right? I think we have to go back to really understanding the fullness of what the Christian faith is.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot in community night. I don't believe in the first century church. What is that? Oh my God. Did he just say that? Yes. It just is. We are the church.
Yeah.
There's no old church and new church. We just are. It's been going on. Yes, it's the first century timeline. Duh, we get it. Yes. It's not, you know, getting to all the linguistics here and the lexicon of it. I'm talking about like it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Like we're still in it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we need to go back to the reverence of that and go back to the understanding of what Acts 2 says, verse 42 through 47.
Right.
42 to 47, Acts 2, like that right there, guys, is the key.
Yeah.
The key.
Yeah.
And we have to go back to that. That is where I go with the people who are like the other side, right? And again, and that's why I'm not trying to give like the easy answer, like it's both, but it really is. It really is. There's beauty in both.
Yeah.
There's beauty in both. And we can really apply that to even some I wouldn't say way more, but equally as controversial topics that a lot of you guys may have, whether it's Calvinism and Arminianism and all these different topics that we can get into. It's like at the end of the day, you know, there's truth to both.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I would just say that in terms of the conversation of modernity or religion or modernity and tradition, whatever, I think you can find truth in both. Yeah. And we need to like glean on those things. Right. Now, we can expand on this way deeper, but let's keep it moving because they connect. Now, how does that connect to the controversy part? Which is a big question that a lot of us are asking, me included. You don't have to go far to see that there's some stuff going down within the body of Christ, unfortunately. Yeah. Pastors falling left and right, churches entering scandals. And that's a really tough one, but I'm going to be honest, like I used to look at all that stuff and be part of the mob. Yeah. And grab a pitchfork and be like, I can't believe you. Yeah. Like, this is unacceptable. How dare you? Yeah. But once you lead in a position similar, or you kind of like walk in those shoes, not for a mile, but maybe for a foot, you realize, whoa, I'm equally as bad. Like, I'm just as human. And I think we need to understand this, guys. The moment, and this kind of goes into the deconstruction thing, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the moment we put one bad apple in a group of good apples and say that's just all of them. The moment we, allow a man or a woman or an organization to identify a 2,000-year-old belief system that has had hundreds upon thousands of men, women, and children die for its cause, has seen miracles, signs, wonders, has changed lives, XYZ. I can go on forever. I think it's really stupid.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. For you to just base a couple, and I will be honest, it's not one or two. No, it's a couple.
It's a few.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But for that to overshadow and eclipse what God has done and is doing, I think it's that's unfair.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very incorrect view.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we have to be we have to look at these situations and call it as it is. It is unfortunate and it is a disgrace. And it is it breaks my heart because unfortunately, although I don't believe in the whole concept of one bad apple makes everything bad, that is what a lot of us think and believe.
Yeah.
And that is what we assume as soon as that happens.
I mean, it's like the way I always think it is like you go to a restaurant, have a bad experience, you don't go back.
There you go.
And
absolutely,
that's kind of how this is.
Yep.
Unfortunately,
it is.
That restaurant could be incredible and could be having a bad day, or the cook was out and the waitress is cooking. Like we don't know.
Or quality control.
And
they lost. They lost the recipe. They got lost in the sauce.
And they're just winging it.
And I'd argue that's the one right there.
And they could be so incredible.
Yeah.
It could be so good.
Yeah.
But because you showed up one time and it was gross, you're not going to go back.
Yeah. And it's not your fault.
It's
and
not,
I think that's what makes it harder too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like, and like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand. Like, there's no argument to like, how dare you? Like, no, like it just is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes it harder because again, it's like it wasn't your fault. You kind of go in there and you're like, dang, that sucks. Yeah. And what makes it harder is this. And this is where this all is combined again with the deconstruction side. Is that it's and then you go to the other restaurant across the street and it happens again. You're like, bro, the heck is wrong with this town, bro? Yeah, all these restaurants are trash.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes it takes after 5 or 6, if you even have the willingness and the hunger
to try
to
for
keep
the
trying.
6, yeah.
Where you're like, oh, dang, finally, man, like, this is it.
Time.
And again, I think that's the incredible nuance of this conversation.
Yeah.
Again, I feel for these pastors. I feel for these churches because they're human beings, and I'll be honest. Again, I was part of the mob. And I would look at them and say, I cannot believe you, and be so angry and mask it as righteous anger. When in reality, low-key, it was like, we do this a lot as humans, but it's really a self-projection. Because then you look at yourself and like, that's me, man. Like, could have been me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it hard. And it could be anyone.
It could be no matter who you are.
And that's where grace is important. Yeah. But again, I want to be very clear here because, again, this is a whole modernity part. Going back a little bit to that one. We're going to be jumping around a little bit. Again, they're all connected. Yeah. But the whole embracing modernity in the sense of like the secularization of the church is like, oh, it's hyper grace. It's all good. It's whatever. Yes, grace abounds, but let's not abuse it. There needs to be consequences, and there needs to be an understanding of this is right and wrong. So although I have grace for these people, I feel for these people, I pray for these people, I pray for these churches, it sucks. It breaks my heart when it happens because I'm just like, another one.
Yeah.
But you have to ask yourself why. What happened? And Xiomi was sharing that example, and I think it was a great, beautiful example, amazing way of putting it. And as you were listing out some of them again, I said I think one of the main ones, I think it's you get lost in the sauce, you forget the recipe, you wing it. Mm-hmm. What does that attribute to this conversation?
Yeah,
I think what happens is pastors, churches, organizations forget why they got into this in the first place.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's part of it. They forget why they do it.
Yeah.
They get lost in the sauce. And humanity and our human condition, our brokenness seeps in.
Yeah.
And all you need is a crack, and it's done. I believe also it's the accountability issue. I think a lot of these pastors and churches have a hard time with having accountability.
And that's the quality control.
Yeah, and that's the quality control and saying, hey, like, are you good?
Yeah.
And I think we do a terrible job, specifically in America, of isolating and siloing leaders and making them untouchable. And what they say is gold, and it's not, you can't refute it. It's the gold standard. That's not true. Yeah. And I would say to you respectfully, if you are in a community like that, run. You need accountability. Your leaders need accountability. The moment leaders in an organization loses accountability, red flag number 1. Yeah. So I think that is important. And I think this is part of why that happens. I also believe it's a lack. So it's a lack of accountability on the leader's end, but also on the community's end. Because you have to hold that person accountable. Yeah. And that person has to allow themselves to be held accountable. It's a two-way street here. Yeah. So I think it's also unfair when we kind of put it all on the person. Yeah. Because what if that person was really trying their best, but they didn't have a support system around them? Yeah. So again, very nuanced conversations, hard conversations. I know there's probably going to be a lot of opinions, and maybe you might disagree, and that's totally fine. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think that when we look at the Bible and we look at what wisdom tells us, it's a lot of these situations and a lot of what's going on. It's kind of self-explanatory. Yeah. And I think that, again, I think it's very inconsistent and incongruent for us to look at everything that's going on and say, this is that. No. It's a very limited way of thinking. Yeah. Because there's beautiful churches out there with beautiful, incredible leaders and amazing communities that are not like that. And it's unfair for you to just be like, that's everyone. Let me make this really real and really uncomfortable for some of you. What do you do when you look at a Hispanic person? Oh. When you look at a black person? Yeah. At a white person? At a Democrat? At a Republican? It's the same thing. We just assume they're that, they're this, they're that, they're that. And you're doing the same thing. Yeah. If you carry that same way of thinking and perspective, it's just the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Except people weaponize it. Yeah. And this is how we go into the deconstruction side of this conversation side. I think, people end up looking and pointing fingers. Yeah. And I think this is where it gets very touchy and nuanced again. Some of it, and this is what may be unpopular, but I think popular opinion at the same time, depends. It's up to you. But I think people who are deconstructing or in that process, there's 2 types of people that are in that. One, people who have a absolutely valid and horrible and tragic story that needs to be heard, and needs to be held accountable, and needs to be cared for, given grace to, and walked with. Yeah. Then there's the other side, which I believe is a lot of people as well, which is kind of everything we just talked about. People that look at one bad thing or something that went on in their community or when they grew up or XYZ, and they just say, oh, that's it. And then what they do is they base their faith on a man and on an organization rather on Christ. Yep. Because I'm going to be honest. We will fail you. The church will fail you. People will fail you, but Christ never will. Yeah. And I think, again, it's unfair for us to look at everyone and everything that will fail you at one point and say, oh, I'm done with God. I'm done with Jesus. Well, he never failed you. Yeah. It's unfair. Yeah. Again, it's hard, and there's, I think, some gray areas in between, but I think that there's really those 2 main camps. Yeah.
And I don't think deconstruction is bad. As long as there's a reconstruction.
There it is. Yep.
I think deconstruction is good. I would argue that everyone should. Yeah. At some point, deconstruct and reconstruct. Yeah. Because we are ever changing.
Absolutely.
Our thoughts are ever changing. Yeah. Our feelings are ever changing. if you grew up in church and received Christ into your heart at 10 years old and you're now 30 years old, a lot has changed.
Oh my gosh.
The theology you had as a 10-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old is different to 30-year-old, especially if you have some kind of experience,
past trauma.
You have past trauma, all of these things. I think it's a great thing to like deconstruct some things, some aspects. We did and reconstruct. And that's not to say that my past trauma and past experience hasn't shaped who I am today. It doesn't change that. It doesn't change that it doesn't change any of the foundational pieces of it, right? That I am saved, I'm redeemed, God died on the cross for me, and it doesn't change any of these foundational facts and beliefs, but it changes the way that we approach the gospel, the way that we approach God. And it's interesting because on Sunday I was talking with an old friend of mine who we grew up together in the church, in the same exact church. Yeah. We grew up together, and it was very interesting because first of all, I didn't know this was the topic we were going to pick for tonight on Sunday. And it was really interesting because she was talking about how she just went through this really difficult season of having to learn or to relearn like God, and how she had to get into some really intentional time and with some really intentional people and talk through this trauma of performance and like life and like her relationship with God being performance based and not being able to look at God as God the Father. Yeah. Wow. And struggling and looking back and just like reflecting on how much of her life she never looked at God as God the Father, and just as like, this is God and I have to be good, and it doesn't matter what I'm going through, I have to keep going because he's God and there's an expectation. Wow. And she has had to go through months of just like breaking it down and building a relationship with God as God the Father, because in her past that was never we were never taught that. It was conversation, like we did talk like God is your Father, and you sing those songs, Abba, I belong to you, you sing like in Spanish, La Niña de tus ojos, you sing all these songs low key, but like we're never really taught that. We're taught, I think, more exclusively in the Latino community, which is like where we can, that's really where we grew up and it's a lot different. Very different. And you're really more like, you preach not works, but you're expected works. Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's how we view God. We view God from like a servant and not a child. That's one right there, that's guys. Kind of how we associate with God. Like we're like, oh God, he's so good, I must serve, I must I must work. And we're never, I must rest, I must lean, I must like just fall into Jesus. And so I think that it's real. And I think like if you're coming from that place, I encourage you to like deconstruct and break it off, please, and then come back in as a child and not an orphan who has to work and not someone who has to serve and because at the end of the day, it's not gonna matter. It's not gonna matter. It doesn't matter at all, because if you're looking to be closer to God by serving and doing all this and that, you're not going to. No, it doesn't matter. He's looking to your heart. He's looking for you to surrender. Yeah. Whatever tools you think are adding to whatever, drop them. And I think that's how that conversation struck me on Sunday at a baby shower.
You were spitting, and it hit like a big part of my testimony, and obviously yours. Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's really why I adopted at a very young age the whole question everything. Yeah. and I say it all the time.
I hate it.
And
because he be questioning me.
Yeah. It is something I say and I beg you all to do. Question things and ask God and be like, please, like, show me the truth and show me where this is a lie and whatever. And that's a big part of my testimony was I had to really deconstruct very toxic theology and it really had to, again, and here's the big key, and I want you guys to hear us because you can clip this and make this sound a whole bunch of things, okay? You reconstruct after that. You don't just leave yourself a wreck. You have to reconstruct and allow the Holy Spirit to show you, this is where I can build you back up. And because you need to be broken. Yeah. Like, you have to be broken. Yeah. That's a big part of your faith. Yeah.
And not just reconstruct and get close to God, but get around some people who are going to hold you through that breaking, because that was such a key element to my friend's part, because life is hard alone. Walking alongside God is hard alone, right? That's why there's the church. That's why we lean into each other. Like, we are there to walk alongside each other. Yeah. And, it's easy to talk about when you come out of into the reconstruction. Yeah. And it's easy to kind of talk about why you're deconstructing, but nobody really talks about through the deconstructing. Yeah. We talk about why we're going to do it. And then we talk about, now my life is better. Yeah. And we don't talk about the really nasty part in between, which sucks and it hurts and it's painful, but it's worse if you're alone.
Oh man. Yeah.
It takes longer.
And actually, leaves more room for confusion.
And leaves more room for confusion. Yeah, so I would say, also pray about who in your life is going to be able to pray with you through that, and who you'll be able to confide in through that, because it is hard and can be confusing, and you're going to go through a lot of thoughts and questioning through that time. And I think having again, not to be this we say this, but it's just like
Ding-a-ling.
Community is everything. Yeah. Finding those people, and even if it's maybe not people can also be very important. I think,
and people that may not agree with you.
Yeah, choosing people. Maybe there are churches out there who provide space for this.
Oh yeah,
it exists.
Oh yeah,
they provide space for you to rebuild.
Yes,
and to really get into it.
Yeah,
and I think that's a great tool for churches to provide, like the ones that do. I think that's incredible.
And having space to have open dialogue, like you need to have, again,
because there's so much taboo.
Yeah, because if you're coming from a place where, again, whatever the pastor says and church says is gospel, it's sus. That's sus.
Yeah.
Like, if there's no hey, can we have a conversation? Yeah, let's talk. That's sus.
Yeah.
So you need to have a space to deconstruct in a healthy way and then reconstruct. You have to do it. And I think that's where we lose a lot of people, is that they just don't.
Yeah, they just deconstruct and then they're like, what's over?
Yeah, and that's not it, right? So I want you guys to hear us very, very clearly. That is what we are saying and advocating for.
For sure, please.
Please. Ask the questions and break off the toxicity that maybe you have accumulated throughout the years. And allow the Holy Spirit to show you and teach you otherwise, because you need it. We all need it. Somewhere along the line, we have all picked up things that we should not have.
For sure.
And we grow resentful and bitter and hardened because of everything that's happening.
Yeah.
I would be lying to you if, seeing all these things and being in conversations like these haven't made me be like, bro, what are we doing?
Yeah, for sure.
What? I would be lying to you if I said I had never had that thought, right? Yeah, so you have to always have a community, like you said, of people who are always helping build you up and encourage you and say, no, let's keep going. Let's run out the race that is set before us.
And even challenging you.
And
challenging you. Good support, lift you, but challenging you.
That's part of the three people that we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
The one above you, below you, and beside you. Yeah. The iron sharpening iron.
And I think the same would go for if you're looking for a partner for life.
Absolutely.
For a wife or a husband, them challenging you is not a bad thing.
No, you need it. You need it.
I used to think so, because I'm always right. But he challenges me all the time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Do I like it? No. But I don't think anybody does.
No, but you need it.
But it's necessary.
Yeah.
I think for anything healthy, you must.
Absolutely. Growth requires tension.
Yeah, for sure.
And breaking down of things and the rebuilding of things. That's how you gain muscle. That's why you go to the gym. You break down, you rebuild. It's what it is.
All right, gym bro.
I'm not a gym bro yet, but the gains are slowly coming. They're not coming yet.
You look
But,
good, babe.
anyway, but so again, I know these conversations are very nuanced. There's a lot of, situations that there's kind of like exceptions and whatever. I get it. But I think, again, it's like we need to understand the foundational truths of these things. And the other thing I want to talk about with this, which is something that, again, like I'm really passionate about this because, again, I love the local church. I love just the church as a whole. And just I want people to experience what real Christendom looks like. And it literally kills me, and I hate it when, things happen and then people are like, oh, it sucks. But, I'm really passionate about this because I think that, unfortunately, there's also a lot of, this, again, this is pushing on buttons, but it's like there's a lot of people out there that talk about this and they don't know what they're talking about. I'm just going to say it. Okay. There's a lot of people I know who, are saying things and it's coming from a place that's not love. Yeah. And we need to understand that if you have something to say and it's not coming from love, you don't want to hear it. Even if you're right. Even if it's something that needs to be said, if you're not doing it out of love or if you're doing it out of a place of wanting to just stir the pot, because that was me for a while.
Oh my gosh. It was.
It's just not fruitful, man.
In fact, it's damaging.
It actually damages, and you actually cause more seeds of discord and tension and division. And the reality is that's what the enemy wants. Yeah. And he's laughing at us because we're fighting amongst ourselves.
Especially now, more in the season of like clickbait.
Oh,
the clickbait season. It's clickbait era.
And that's the thing, it's all about
everybody wants the hot take.
Yeah, it's all about the hot take. It's all about who can say it first in the pod. It's all about who can post a graphic and say and put some information and share awareness. Yeah. And here's the reality about awareness too. Awareness means nothing if you're not doing anything about it. Yeah. Like you reposting something on your story does nothing, fam. Sorry. Gets it in front of more eyes. Sure. But according to the Bible, so you guys know I'm not lying here. James 1:22-25. Bringing awareness isn't enough. We need to be doers and not just observers. It says, but be doers of the word and not hearers only. Deceiving yourselves, interestingly enough, says that. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man observing himself in a mirror. I wonder what that mirror is. Yeah. See this? There's a reflection that comes off of this when it's black. Just so you don't, just in case you're wondering. And it says, or he observes himself and goes away and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. Yeah. And I think a lot of us have forgotten who we are in attempts of wanting to do the right thing but getting lost in the sauce and wanting to just stir the pot. But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues it, which is what? It's the law of grace, the law of love. It's Jesus. It's the gospel. Is not forgetful hearer, but a doer of the word. This one will be blessed in what he does. Yeah. So my admonition, what is it? Admonition, right? If I'm saying that right. My challenge, my encouragement to us all. I don't know. I think it's admonition. Maybe someone can fact check me. Maybe you can fact check me. But my encouragement to us, and I'm not trying to get all feisty here, but I'm really passionate about this, okay? And this stuff really breaks my heart. Admonition, right?
An act of or action of admonishing, authoritative counsel or warning. Yeah.
So my warning, my desire, my encouragement, whatever challenges, like,
interesting.
It's just
so smart.
We need to stop being all about awareness and need to really start getting in the trenches. Yeah. And if you are only bringing awareness and aren't in community and aren't amongst the people, your awareness is empty. It's empty noise. It's empty noise. And I'm guilty. We're all guilty of this. It's easy for us to post about what's popping. It's easy for us to always have our take and get our lick in. Yeah. But if we're not doing this thing, if we're not
Yeah.
amongst the people, and if we're not being with community and living it out,
Yeah.
then we're just looking at this mirror of our black screen and just doing nothing.
I mean, it's similar to. Never mind.
What?
I don't think
What are
it
you gonna
was
say?
a good similarity. I was gonna say, like, it's similar to judging people who go to the gym and are kind of obsessed with fitness or just like really passionate about it, but you being overweight and doing nothing.
Whew, I mean, dang.
But talking smack about those.
You went there. That's crazy.
That, I mean, that's.
I mean, again,
that
it's
was
like,
my immediate thought.
yeah,
You know, I'm not
I
saying
mean,
that that's what it is,
for
but
sure,
that's
for
how,
sure.
like, in my head, that's how.
Yeah, I mean, it's
that's where my brain goes.
it's and here's another. I'm not,
Just say it,
this
just
is a
say it.
tough one, but it's like, don't complain about who's president if you didn't vote.
Oh.
So it's like the same as it's that
That's
sense.
not what
It's
I thought
that.
you were gonna say, but.
Yeah, but it's that sense of like, you gotta do something about it and don't just complain from the sidelines.
I mean, be part of the solution.
You have to be, and that's
Be
why we
part of the
said,
solution.
and that's why we said in the beginning, we aren't the solution.
Yeah.
We're just giving our response. And our response needs to be a response. Isn't just a word, it's an action.
Yeah.
It's a verb. Like we
Yeah.
have to get out here.
Be part of it.
So again, like, I mean, I'm saying this because I see this all the time. Like I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram and I see these TikTok and Instagram influencers and and people who have followings, and just because they have a following, people assume that what they have to say is right or good. And maybe these people have never been in community, have never served in the church, don't have experience. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and judge or assume. But what I am going to say is this, is that if we're just looking at these people and listening to what they say and just regurgitating what they're saying and we're not doing anything about it, or if these people aren't doing anything about it, we're a part of the problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Because what do people want to see, guys? What does the world want to see? What do the people who are deconstructing want to see? If you're going to prove them right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And guess
sure.
what we're doing, guys?
Proving them right.
Proving them right.
Yeah.
So what do? We combat it
Yeah.
with love
Yeah.
and truth.
Yeah.
Not truth without love. And not love without truth.
Yeah. That's good.
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
Right. And again, like, I know, we're kind of coming at it out the gate here, and, you may be listening to this and be like, bro, like, chill, or I don't know, you're being too harsh. Look, I'm passionate about it. It's what I love. Whether I'm right or wrong, totally fine. I don't really care. I'm just saying what the word says, and I'm just trying to advocate for what I believe the truth is. And what the truth is that the truth will set you free, but it has to be in love. And the only way we're going to answer the questions of the church embracing modernity or tradition, or what do we do with the controversies of these pastors and churches, and what do we do about the deconstruction, it's very simple. As cheesy and as corny as it sounds, it's like, what would have Jesus done?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, what did he do with all the? Because guess what, guys? These are not new things,
not new.
bro.
This has
like
been going
read,
on for long.
read the letters. Paul was like, "Y'all are tripping," okay? Like, and Jesus was like, "Y'all are tripping." So again, it's like this isn't old, right? And
this isn't new.
And news. Sorry, this isn't new.
It's old.
This isn't new. And guess what?
Yeah,
it's gonna get worse.
Only.
It's, or at least not necessarily, I wouldn't say worse, but whatever, but it's going to keep happening. Yeah. And it's going to happen in greater measure. And the reality is, what's going to separate those of us who are going to be either lukewarm, hot, or cold is going to be that truth and love. Yeah. And for you to be with truth, you got to get into truth. Like, guys, we got what I said earlier, exegete scripture, hermeneutics, like read books, like get in the word, like read, hear from people you don't agree with, people you do agree with, like get like well-rounded, like have conversations, ask people you trust, people who are smarter than you, who have more experience than you, like ask the Holy Spirit, like really be like, God, like please help me. He will help you. For sure. But then the love, get in community, like talk to people, fellowship with people. Like rub arms with people, like sharpen one another, cry with one another, rejoice with one another. If you're not doing that, fam, I'm sorry, you're not going to make it.
Yeah,
you're not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it.
And know that those aren't words that like we're just trying to say like these are.
Oh, it's clickbait.
This is our life.
This is our hard take.
This is the life we lived until recently. This was us until 2024.
And that is why we are
that's
talking
why we're
about it.
And that's why you see him be so passionate, because we struggled through it.
Yeah.
We fought through it. Yeah. We almost lost each other through it. Because we weren't doing those things. No. And we decided that we had to make a change.
Because we were just adding to the noise.
And we were just adding to the noise. We weren't making a change. And, we are involved in church. And he's working. For, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And more to add to the leadership is just people.
Mm-hmm.
More to add that, we may look put together, but nothing was together. Let me tell you.
Not at all.
We were barely, as a marriage were barely together through that season. And it was a hard one.
Yeah.
And it was a hard lesson to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And we're more just using what we've lived in our responses, wanting to help you not get to where we were.
Yeah.
Because
or
it's
worse.
Or worse. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And definitely if you have people around you, great. If you don't, you gotta look. You have to look. And please. It might be uncomfortable at first.
Oh yeah.
It will be uncomfortable at first.
No one likes it.
I promise it will be.
No one likes it.
But you're gonna find someone. You're gonna find someone who's going to help you.
Yeah.
You just have to start looking.
Yeah. Those who seek will find. Yeah. And I'm a big believer in that, because if you really ask God, please send me people. Please send me somewhere. You know, He will do it.
Yeah.
The question is, one, are you asking? And two, are you aware? Are you looking after you ask? Right. So, anyway, a lot of thoughts here, a lot of words, a lot of conversation, but we're going to wrap it up because, we're reaching that 1 hour and we just vomited a lot of thoughts and info at you. But I just want to say very quickly, this is all said in love.
Yeah.
This is all said in truth.
Mm-hmm.
And we want people to encounter Jesus and encounter what church should be and could be. And we just want people to know that we can have these open conversations. Yeah. And if you want to have these conversations with us offline, let's do it. Come to community night. Come to Coffee with Friends. Come to our house. Talk to us.
Reach
out. I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
And know that you'll be.
Sam, he loves this.
And know that you'll be found with open arms, open ears, and open hearts to have conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So let's not be hearers. Let's be doers.
Yeah.
And let's run the race that was set out before us. And let's do it with fear and trembling, knowing that God's got it. And that at the end of the day, the gates of hell will not prevail against the church. Yeah. And the church is not a building and a pastor. Okay.
What?
It's not a building or a pastor.
One more time.
It's not a building, and it is not a pastor.
Let's go.
Right? So let's allow that to be our truth in the narrative.
Yeah.
But we will hit you guys up with some more episodes and maybe some different ones and different topics, obviously. But we felt this was a really needed one-on-one. I think will hopefully bring value to people.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Whew. Without further ado, here's the outro.
Feel good?
Feels great.
Did we do the outro last time?
I think we did.
Okay. I don't remember.
Hit it.
Well, have fun.
Have fun.
Go live your best life.
Go live your best life.
And go get coffee with friends.
See y'all later. Love you guys. Take it easy.